Is Starfield 8 months later finally a good, fun experience to play? Obviously not. We all know that that's completely impossible. Starfield will forever be pure trash.
We're 7 months into the game's lifespan. We're just south of the Xbox Summer Showcase, where undoubtedly we're going to learn more about Starfield and its future between free updates as well as Shattered Space. And that's going to really paint a clear picture of where we're going with things, especially when there's rumors
I would assume nowhere.
of a PS5 port floating around, which I think is an inevitability. I don't know if it arrives this year, but nonetheless, we have a lot going on with Starfield, and this is a good time to pause and analyze things when the game just got its biggest and most meaningful update yet. When I say meaningful, I mean it's actually adding gameplay elements, gameplay changes, adjusting to feedback that has been given since the launch of
Yeah, I do not believe that that's gonna happen. I really don't believe that's ever gonna happen.
the game. This is not one of those massive patch lists that's just full of bug fixes and quest changes. This is legitimate gameplay changes, and some of the
Oh, Matty, you poor, poor shill. Massive bug changes for Bethesda are what a good company would consider a minor patch update that's not even posted anywhere because no one cares enough. But for Bethesda, fixing 3 bugs is, well, technically the best they have ever done in their lives. If, we assume that the bugs are actually fixed, not just they say they fixed it, but in reality they made it worse, which they do quite often, honestly.
these are pretty spectacular in my opinion. I know I was already on the more positive side with Starfield, but yeah, I gotta say, some of the things
Sad.
added here, better. And it's a good sign because little adjustments like this are going a long way for me. I don't know if it's going to go as long for some of you out there. We'll get into that. But it's a sign that if they can adjust to some other things that they've received a ton of feedback on, exploration will be in a good spot. So we'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the full picture here. And that full picture includes a look at today's sponsor. I don't know about everyone else, but I am tired of disingenuous information being spread, and I want to know exactly,
Amazing.
which is what I want to begin with the May update, which adds some significant things and just kind of go in order of what impacted me the most as I was playing around. For starters, this dialogue camera. I know some people call this Bethesda jank. I call this immersion. I absolutely love the free dialogue camera. You know, it's funny. Before the launch of Starfield, I got what they were going for, and I was totally on board for this kind of Oblivion-style dialogue system,
I was not. The characters looked horrible.
especially because Bethesda upgraded their animation systems. I know Starfield's kind of aged like milk already in that department. I will completely
You can't say upgraded animation systems and at the same sentence say, well, it's still shit and it's already trash by all standards possible. You can't just say that.
agree with people on that. But when you looked at the standards for Bethesda Game Studios animations, it was low, and understandably so, because they were doing so many other things in their games. So when you saw
Yeah, the animations were kind of low and janky, I agree, but they did not look horrible. Starfield, the people who made this, it doesn't matter that, it doesn't resemble life one-to-one. It's just the fact that all the characters that they made looked like non-humans. A bunch of skinwalkers just trying to pretend to be humans with beady eyes and, open mouths and all other kinds of crazy nonsense that just makes you think, wow, what kind of hellhole did I crawl into?
Starfield pull the camera in close and characters were acting more human, I was like, okay, this makes so much more sense. You want to make that the focal point. But eventually you learn Starfield is an incredibly dialogue heavy game. Some quests just involve,
which is sad because all the dialogue is bad. This is a thing that bad Bethesda fans don't understand. This was my critique about 76. Oh, you don't like the fact that there's a lot of dialogue in 76 now? Yeah, I hate the fact that there's a lot of dialogue in 76 now, in fact. The same way as in Starfield. Because all the dialogue that is said is just shit. It's absolute, complete trash tier nonsense gobbledygook that has no meaning, that has a non-natural way of being explained and whatnot. Yeah, more dialogue doesn't mean that you're making a good RPG. You know what makes a good RPG? The fact that your dialogue is actually good and meaningful. Not you go up to any random NPC in an active war zone and they start acting like they're your childhood friend or something and answer all the questions about everything and stuff like that. It's just bad. Again, 76 had a dialogue and it got worse because the dialogue was so poorly written. I wish they didn't have dialogue.
Strictly talking to people for extensive periods of time, it becomes disengaging, fatiguing even, as you just stare at the same person forever. When you have the world active around you as you're engaging in dialogue and the camera not automatically moving but you controlling it, there's an immersive factor there that reminds me a little bit of how I feel with Cyberpunk 2077, though I think Cyberpunk does it way better, especially with the first person view, the hand movements.
I would say almost everyone does it better than Bethesda at this point. Not even a controversial thing to say, honestly.
The things they do in between while talking to you, it's so immersive. But I think Bethesda Game Studios, what I didn't realize with their conversation systems is really dating back to, I'd say, Skyrim. The natural desire for people was for Bethesda to get more and more cinematic with their conversation system. Skyrim moved our industry forward in so many ways that it was okay the conversation system was how it was. And then Fallout 4 tried to add a little more cinematic moving of the camera. I actually think this would be great in Starfield. I think it would fit really well, but then again, your character doesn't talk, but a couple of camera movements for when people are talking to you would be awesome. But this free flow dialogue system here works really well for me because it maintains the immersive factor. And I don't think I really understood why I appreciated it until it was gone from the game and then re-added as an option. So I hope moving forward in other BGS titles, this continues to be an option. Yeah, this was like the #1 thing I loved. It added so much. It just felt...
So he's advocating essentially for make facial animations as sad, pathetic, and bad as possible, and then just add an option to not zoom in so you don't see the horrible failures of Bethesda. Nice. That's real nice, Maddie.
More like a Bethesda game. I don't know how else to put it. Then they added gameplay options. This panned out extremely well. I thought Starfield always played as a good shooter, but that's not why I play BGS games. I love the exploration. I love the unique pieces of loot, something they're just doing.
Starfield is not really a good shooter. I mean, it's actually better than Fallout 4 and all the other games, true, but it's not actually a good shooter. It's still very lackluster shit here.
Less and less nowadays. So with the weapons I do get, they feel good, but now we need more unique properties. Hopefully they get to that in more free updates and expansions and all that stuff. But at the bare bones here of this gameplay option system, you get to tweak the enemy damage. You get to tweak the enemy damage both in ship as well as on the ground. You can change when you can save the game, what heals you, how often it heals you, how slowly or quickly it heals you, how fast you gain afflictions, and so on and so forth. I mainly use this for damage tweaking. I increased how much damage I put out, and I increased how much damage enemies put out. And I know I made this comparison before when we were looking at the May update, but it really does play like the realistic damage mods in Fallout, where you just do a lot more damage, but the enemy does the same to you. It increases the intensity of encounters in Starfield, and it works really well because you can kind of balance things out. As you change these options, you're going to get more or less XP. My multiplier is still at 0% because the way I balance things out, I increased how much capacity I can have in my inventory and my storage space as well because I'm so tired of being encumbered every 5 steps in Starfield.
So it's kind of nice, technically, yes, I agree. But at the same time, you know why this change was actually done? It was done because Bethesda could not figure out what's actually an appropriate difficulty level for Starfield, so they kind of just allowed you to make it, which is actually nice to a degree, but still, it only exists because Bethesda can't figure out what difficulty level should actually be in the first place. That's why this exists.
So I love the options that they've added here, but more importantly, it's that damage. It makes the encounters and the fighting so much more fun. I was actually using weapons I never pull out. For example, I always go to the Beowulf. This thing does a ton of damage. It's semi-auto, so I don't burn through my ammo too quickly. Like, everything just dies by this thing. There was never a reason for me to eventually switch weapons. Sometimes I'll pull out the Experiment A7 shotgun. That's good just because it's satisfying as hell to use, but I never really had a major use for it. With this damage mod...
By saying this, you're technically admitting that, well, guns don't actually feel good. The only guns that feel good are the guns that one-shot things. That's what you are effectively saying, sadly, in this situation, which is arguably not a good thing to do.
I was using my silent sniper rifle. I was stealthing way more. It just totally transformed.
Also, by the way, notice the combat. Again, he's either one-shotting everything or he shoots something and it instantaneously has, ah, I'm hit! You know, that thing. Which is super poor gameplay.
How I approach the game. So in a game that does a lot of shooting, I think this added a lot to the experience. It may not be exactly what you're looking for, but I just want to say, for me, this did a lot, as did the frame rate mode. For those of you who don't know, most of, well, really all of my playtime is logged on my Xbox Series X, so they've added the ability to change a target frame rate, and when you go to 60, it switches to a performance mode. So I did a little bit of fidelity testing.
Yeah, so you, again, this is hilarious. You can't even get through 60 FPS because you need to buy a new house, a new monitor, a new car, and send Todd Howard your dog via mail. It's, yeah, this is how you get 60 FPS here. It's kind of crazy. And even then you can't get it on good graphics because, well, you know. Well, to be fair, the one thing that actually saves this situation is the fact that, have you seen how performance mode looks in this game versus graphical fidelity mode, the one with the good graphics? I have. It's indistinguishable. Both of them look crap.
If you will, like talking to characters in conversation. The difference is there in my experience, and I will completely admit my eye is not super well trained where I notice every little single detail here, but I go on sort of the feel factor. Did I feel anything different? Did I notice anything different? Did the game look off? Did the picture on screen look terrible? Did it look muddy? Did it look glossy? The answer is no. I thought it still looked like a great game on consoles. I know on PC you can get your 4K and your 60. I get it. I've said this before for those who are wondering. I like my console gaming because I'm always working at my PC. So for me, going over to my TV or to my projector to do some gaming in different rooms, it helps me break things up. It keeps
Projector?
the excitement up. It keeps my energy up. It's a really important thing for me just on like a mental level. So that's why I do things.
How about you just, you know, step away from the electronics, and that's gonna probably do a better job, honestly.
That way. So to have a good 60 FPS mode in Starfield, we all knew they could do it. I don't like that it took so long because they were...
Now, I'm not sure if I'm gonna agree that we all knew that they can do it. I think most of us didn't think that they can do it, because this is not true 60 FPS when you need to buy a new screen for it to work, and you can't even have high fidelity at the same time with 60 FPS, and it's not even guaranteed 60, it's like, you know, up to 60. Yeah, so I don't know about that one.
Kind of acting like, oh yeah, you know, we're figuring things out. We wanted to focus on something steady, but this 60, it's been steady. It's been fine. We knew it was possible. It's just on Series X though, so keep that in mind. Last but not least here, we do have the...
Man, but true. So true, actually. Loading screens in 60 FPS, boys. The Starfield enthusiast dream. Oh yeah. Want to travel from planet to planet? Well, those 5 loading screens now, they're possible in 60 FPS. Exciting, I know.
Brand new city maps that have been added.
Wow.
And as well as that, you have icons for every location within these cities. So I tried it on Aquila City. I gotta say, this is cool, but this isn't really a complaint of the system itself. Like, let me get this straight first. It works, and it works totally fine. For me, though, with the state of exploration and content, where we're at in Starfield's lifespan, this is nice to have, but it feels, I don't know, useless. Like, I never used the map in...
Yeah, it was useless in the first place. So, the complaint that there was no map was not really a complaint that there is no map. It's the fact that there's no even point in having a map, but you still didn't even put in a map in a game. That was the complaint, that the game can actually come out and not have a map. Most people understood that it's very, very pointless to actually have a map in this game, because the planets are empty, and the moment you zoom... I wonder if Matt even zooms out. Ah, he does here. The moment you zoom out, you know that, wow, there's literally nothing in this game. How amazing.
In Starfield, quite frankly, I would mark the quest and then use my scanner to go, everywhere. And whenever I wasn't using a scanner to go somewhere, I would open up my quest menu and fast travel where I needed to go. Famously so, right? That's what.
Yeah, famously so. So the thing he's saying here is that the people who made Starfield low-key understood that the game's shit. And Starfield legitimately has like 15 different ways of fast traveling. You can open the map, you can open the mission log, you can open the scanner, you can look at a direction and you can do that. You can be in a ship and you... There's legitimately a million ways of fast traveling in this game, which is hilarious. Because they understood the more ways of fast traveling they add, the less pissed off people are gonna be. That's why fast traveling exists.
What the game has its poor reputation for, among a few other things. So it's good to have, and I'm not downplaying it. It's just right now, as the content stands, kind of useless. Like whenever I fire up this game to get gameplay for y'all, well, look, it's just kind of like I'm chasing whatever's in my quest log. I'm not looking at the map, seeing locations, and checking out places unexplored because, as we already know...
Dude, look at how empty this shit is. It's just a 3-minute run between each location, by the way. Also, it's crazy.
The exploration in Starfield is not great. And so that kind of leads me into, you've heard this one before, what they need to fix. And it's got...
not great is like the underestimation of a century.
Gotta be the exploration and the content. I already think this is in a good state on a technical level. I think these gameplay additions here are really good. Like, they really grabbed hold of me, and I stuck with Starfield for a long while. I haven't played it a ton since launch, but this is the first time I sat down, played it, and went, I'm having so much fun. So this can add a lot to the game, and that's just the start of it all. So it has me optimistic, but to really push this game over the top, to really get it to the point that we all wanted it to be in the first place, they've got to figure out exploration and content and finding things in between. It still sucks when I drop down on Aquila, for example.
No, the thing that they need to do in Starfield is fire the idiot who went on a Twitter rant about how much of a genius writer he is, and that everyone who doesn't like Starfield writing is just a moron. That guy just needs to be fired before he gets to destroy Elder Scrolls 6. Not that, firing him honestly will save Elder Scrolls 6 at this point, but, at least minimize some of the damage, because even if you add decenter exploration, the fact that all conversations in Starfield feel written like by a 5-year-old, that's already bad, and there's no saving that. The fact that most quests make no sense, the fact that no one even, tried to think before they implemented anything in this game, there are so many things wrong with Starfield. Adding better exploration is not gonna save a single thing.
And I'm looking around, and I know all of the areas surrounding these cities. There's nothing. It's all procedurally generated. It really sucks the life out of me with this game because now you're...
Procedurally generated is not a problem. Again, I have said this before. It's not a problem. The problem is that Bethesda only created like 3 different tile sets for, everything. If you have been in 3 caves, chances are the 3rd cave is already a repeat of the 1st cave. And you notice parts of the 2nd cave in the 3rd cave. Have been in 3 different locations that are buildings? Congratulations, it's the same tile set over and over and over again. Literally, if you have been in one random generated location, be it a cave or be it indoors, you have seen every location because they just repeat. And as fast as, the 2nd place that you go into.
In a spot where your game is fun to play, you have tools to aid in exploration, but your exploration itself is not great. And so I'm really crossing my fingers that they've figured something out. We already know bounty hunting of some kind is on the way. Vehicles are on the way. I'm really pumped to try these out, but I hope they figure something out to add life to some of these key planets. I don't think it's...
Same. I can't wait to see vehicles. Imagine, you get faster to your loading screen. Ain't that exciting?
Possible to get all of them, but I think some of the major ones, I know Neon being the exception because there's just water surrounding it, but I think some of these planets do need more key locations, especially the ones that you are going to be visiting. I know you've heard it before, but playing this game, it's just a reminder. I'm like, this is fun to play. I love the vibe. I love the atmosphere. I love a lot about this game. you just gotta let me do more things and have that sense of discovery that you're so well known for. So it shouldn't be too hard for them to figure out. Other things they add in this update, ship decorating. I'm not great at this thing, so you're going to see some of the most embarrassing ship decorating ever as I'm just kind of testing the functionality of the system. This is really cool.
Ship decorating is hilarious because you can buy empty modules, but if a module has something already inside of it, yeah, you can't move it because, Bethesda.
Though you can add new parts to your ship that are completely empty that you can fully decorate yourself. It works exactly like it would in the settlement mode. You can even put down new crafting stations. And I will say, this is something I am going to spend a little extra time with because for me, I don't care about the settlement system in Starfield. I found it useless, slapped on. And what I will say is I'm going to use it now because I'm in my ship way more than any other settlement ever. So yeah, this is just one big update and it's added a lot for me. For me, I should emphasize, just because
Yes.
I know everyone else is in a seemingly different spot than me, it feels like, but as someone who enjoyed the game, I felt like this enriched it a lot. For those of you kind of riding the fence, I'm not saying, hey, go download it. This is going to change everything for you. But this is a good, meaningful step forward for those of you who are remaining patient or who are on the outside looking in, thinking about it. Just know things like the frame rate mode, things like the dialogue camera, new gameplay options do a ton for this game. I still hope they do a dedicated survival mode. I think the mechanics are there to make a really compelling survival mode in Starfield. I think the options are limitless. That's why I'm really rooting for the game because I'm like, you guys are already almost there, in my opinion, with just one big update.
Oh man, the copium here is pretty intense, not gonna lie. Anyway, that was Mr. Matty Plays. Oh boy, Starfield, boys. Another 15 years and it's gonna almost be a game. It's gonna be great. Anyway, thanks for watching, subscribe, and already. Bye bye.